Hello folks, this is Arvin again. I'm going to talk again about, I'm using again too many times, but why not? We're going to talk about macro and about focus stacking. I've done something recently and I just wanted to share that with you folks and how I did it with all the different nitty-gritties and the difficulties that I go through trying to set this up. So with that said, let me shut this down and open up this little view here, and you'll see the picture shows a close-up of a cactus plant in the front garden and with the little flowers and the setup. This is what I initially set up. The reason for this particular piece of material that I'm using, two phases. It's white reflection, but at the same time, since it's in the day outside, I was trying to block the wind. And my camera is on a tripod. It's I forget. I think it's Mofroto. I really mutilated that particular word. I don't care about the names here. So I was also blocking the wind to steady the flower or the plant. It's sitting on a very high branch and it's very flimsy. Yesterday I put a screwdriver, taped things, put some paper clips in there. I tried to steady it, but it still didn't give me what I wanted. But I achieved a few pictures, and I'll show you that later on as we go through this process. 100 mil macro, 5D Mark IV, and I'll go through the settings and everything else with you folks. So the picture that I took, this one was with my iPhone, and just to give you a heads up on what I did. So there's one of the pictures, but I just want to go back. This is the first one I started with yesterday. It was reasonably focused. I wasn't happy with it, but I still put it up. It has achieved 97.5. This one is 97.6. A little close-up view of the first print. These are not focus stacked, by the way. They are just straight shots. So going to Lightroom, let me see if I can get to that other pictures here. This is the picture, and I was trying to focus that kit, but it didn't work out. It just wind was blowing shaky and things like that, and it just wasn't right. So today I sat down, I figured out I needed to do something about it, and I took, if you notice, there's two dark pictures here, and I purposely did that. I initially did an outside shoot with the daylight, but still wasn't happy with what I was trying to get exposure wise and everything else. And if you notice, 1/60th 5.6 100 ISO, and wasn't happy with it. The same year, 5.6, and I turned it around with 100th of a second f8. I changed a few things to take it from a distance, and it still didn't work. If you notice, not great. So there's movement here, I can see that, and just, frustration, right? So some part of this is good, but others is out of focus. I actually want to get as close as possible. And what I've done is also not 100% perfect. It's just to give you an idea, and a lot of things I'm working with to get a better feel for it. I'm trying to figure out a way to change that, and I'll talk about a little bit more about it in a minute. So there's those pictures. So what I did was I focused on the print, actually on the flowers, and this was on the far end of the print, actually the flowers. So which means on the outer edge, which is closer towards the camera. And that's where it's focused. So if you notice, I'm going to get closer and closer as we go. Let me just adjust the framing of it, and there you go, it's starting to get closer because now I'm slowly dialing in manual. Now, by the way, this is all on manual. It's manual focus. I've switched off my stabilizing system, and also I've done is now going handheld focus. Now it's coming from the back, focusing and coming forward. I said it the other way around. I apologize. That's how these pictures are getting stacked right now. So if you notice, it's coming forward and forward. So what I'm going to do, let me just go back to this particular one and give you a little bit of an idea. Let's zoom in by cropping in, and I'll do that for you. So with that said, watch this picture. Much more in detail is coming out, right? So just reset that. I'll talk about the reason for it and then give you an idea. And it's getting closer and closer to the front part of the flower is getting focused. Now, please understand there's a couple of techniques that I'm using here, and you'll understand why. So all this is getting stacked as we get closer. And then I realize it's now everything out of focus. So I went a little bit too far. So let me explain something, and you'll get a better understanding of this. I focused on the far end of it. So the barrel basically was from the closest point, it was about less than half an inch away, the twist of the barrel. And if you notice on the barrel itself, as far as the grooves go on the grip, each groove with the peak and the valley is what I'm working on. Today I was a little lazy and I apologize for it, but there's something I'm working on. What I moved from as best as possible and best as I could see and best of circumstances, I was holding and sitting on the floor practically. I had a small stool that I was sitting on, but my right hand was holding my flash. And I was also using a trigger mechanism from my camera to the flash. So the trigger unit, the Yongnuo, I think it's spelled Y-O-U, sorry, Y-O-N-G-N-U-O is what I use. And I apologize how I pronounce it. It's YNE3RT. It's a speed light transmitter that I use that triggers my flash. I have a Canon flash. I think it's a 600. And with that said, the flash was on to the right hand side. I was about one increment less of power from the standard full power. It was just one power less to the left. You can dial it on the flash, and that's the amount of flash that I use. Also, I had the flash pointing straight up, so with the diffuser on, and it was just giving me a burst of power onto this flower. If you notice, the 100 ISO, and I used at 4.5, 50th of a second, and then I was triggering it. I also had the camera on a 2-second timer. So each increment, what I did was I would press the shutter, it would wait for 2 seconds, and then trigger off the picture. But at the same time, each picture that I did, if you looked at it from this particular first picture here, I would then go to the next picture by turning the barrel closer to coming forward of the flower. So as you see, this is very close focused, and you'll see from coming from the back, and it came forward as such. So that's how I focused it. I didn't do this in an accurate way. You'll notice it later on. And there was a reason I was trying to test a couple of things out. So with that said, you see how this thing is focusing now. It's coming forward. I was just not in the mood to get things done right, and I apologize. I mean, I'm really perfect at what I'm doing. I'm very attentive to details, but this was something for future that I'm working on, and I wanted to see how I could eliminate a few things. We all get lazy to a point, but this wasn't just laziness. This was actually trying to shortcut something to get what I wanted to achieve at a minimum cost. And especially a lot of us don't have the finances to achieve certain things. And for what I did was using a flash, using the macro, using the camera, and also using a little bit of reflection. Now that same item was balanced between the flower and the tripod in the front, and it was below the camera, so it was bouncing light above, but the flash on the right hand side about 2.5–3 feet away was what I would say. In fact, let me just use a little measuring tape here and just make sure that I know. Approximately about 2.5 feet is what I was away from the flower and flashing it. So with that said, what I did was I took all the pictures that I felt besides the last two, and I brought it into Photoshop. So I right-clicked it after selecting all of them, went to Edit, opened up layers in Photoshop. It went through the process, and I'm not going to go through this one. Just want to give you a heads up because this will take a while. These pictures are pretty heavy, large prints. So I went over 4 gigs. It's some cases I'm running into about 10 gigs worth of layers once all those pictures are stacked. So it adds up in Photoshop. So let me shut this down. And what I want to do is, there's all the pictures that were brought in, but this is the one that I'm going to open up, and I'll explain once I've opened it up. So you'll have all the layers. What I want you to do is select on all. Once you've selected all, then go to Edit, Auto Align. You'll go through the process and then Auto Blend, because there's a few little areas here that it will actually leave out, and this you can see it's actually blended it in. I'm not going to use that, and that's not the whole game plan behind it. So one of the things that I learned also to apply, and this is not, it hasn't been applied in Lightroom. I haven't played around with it yet, and I haven't cleaned it up. So with that said, I'm going to go to curves, and what I'm going to do is hit auto, and if you notice it's increased it did a good job. I'm pretty good at doing this in Lightroom also, but it's going to come in as close to what I need it as by doing it through auto. And even if you do it through this, which is not what I want, but it's going to measure that, but I'm going to play with it. So that's set. Watch this. I'm going to zoom in. And the picture has been stitched together or stacked together. But since I wasn't very accurate, you notice these little areas? It's out of focus, even here. So that's the increment I missed. Now, I want to get an increment. I mean, I've done the fly. I don't know if you've seen that and if you haven't, you can actually go into my previous tutorial on stacking, and you'll see the fly. The fly was very accurately done, but even that wasn't 100% perfect. there was a few minor areas that I missed, and that's what I'm trying to get at. And one of the ways to do it is that there's a special computerized system that you can use that will actually traverse the camera forward in nano increments. So it's not millimeters, but it's a nano. Is it nano inch or nano centimeters? But it's as close to thickness of your hair. And that's the increment I want to actually achieve, so that way I can get this thing right. But the exposure and everything that I'm seeing is what is already achieved. And getting the flash and everything right, I used to have an entire studio. I don't have all those items now. I wish I'd kept it, but then, you know what, it's just one of those things. So I'm looking at how to help those who have a very minimum budget and for those who have a serious budget. The minimum budget, this can be achieved even with the smallest amount of budget, but with the least amount of equipment, you can still achieve these things, but not as perfect as I would like to have it. And that's the whole key behind this game. So with that said, what I've done is I've actually cropped, and I've played around in Lightroom, and I'm going to show you that as well. So how I've cropped it and what I've done. Let's close this and go back to Lightroom. And I don't think it's here because I've actually loaded this in a different way. I apologize, but let's actually, I have another way to provide this. So just to give you a heads up, first of all, I'll just let's pick one of the pictures here. What I did was basically just hit auto once I brought it in, and I'll show you the picture. Once I brought it in, I played around with the whites by using Option on my unit because I'm using a PC as well, and basically adjusting it a little bit. You see that a slight bit of white came in, and the blacks, basically as soon as I see a little bit of blacks up, basically that's it. And then I use vibrance. I pushed it up to about 70, 75, and saturation the same way. So saturation, I'd say about 50, 55. You see how the greenness came out, and much more detail. You'll see it much more. I've also done is gone into details and pushed it up to 80, and then I normally do, and then 20, and then the masking, just adjusting it to make sure that I get reasonable focusing. And then also I do the lens correction by doing both these units here. So removing and also enabling profile correction. So I would actually apply that as well. So with that said, let me show you. I'm going to shut this down. I don't want it actually. And just bear with me. And what I did was I cropped it. So here's the first one. And I cropped it. I twisted it. Actually, I actually did a 90-degree turn. And I cropped it so it looks like a layer is falling down on this particular one. And the other one, I did the same thing. And if you notice, it's like wheels that were stacked together in a way. So that's how I look at these. And look at the colors that it brings out. Excuse me, I'm yawning. I apologize. It's just I had this little Coke. Shouldn't have drank Coke. All right. So giving an idea of what I did, this is what I achieved between the two prints. And I sharpened all that as best as possible, giving the saturation and the what did I forget? Saturation and oh boy, I'm losing it now. Let's see, just before I goof up. So you have saturation, what's the other word I'm looking for? Vibrance. Here's vibrance on its own, by the way. So the two, I pushed it up as max as possible to give me the better print. And shut this down. So watch this. And enlarge it. So this was loaded a few minutes ago, about an hour ago. Here's the ones that look like a wheel, and you notice brighter. It's got better vibrance and saturation on it. And at the moment, within an hour, I've hit 90.9. And then the second one, it's also following through, and it's getting, this one's got 88.1, 93.1. It's picked up more people. If you haven't used this particular product, it's 500px. You can showcase your photographs and see how people like it, and that will give you an idea if this picture is going to be good or bad. And that way you can make a decision on, is it worth printing. I create a gauge from this to tell me how it's doing, and 93.1, 93.1, both of them are even. They were done very close to each other time frame wise. So with that said, this is what it's showing off right now. So folks, that's it. I'm at the end of the transaction, as I call it, or the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can post it at the bottom. And please like and share. And I'd love that. Also subscribe. And we'll talk to you soon. Again, thank you. God bless you folks. Take care.